Hi, this is Michael. Just feel like some of my glibber sounding comments might age quite badly, since even in the 3 or 4 days since we recorded this episode, I'm sort of starting to feel like a privilege check of the fact that coronavirus to me means minor inconvenience, but I don't want to downplay people's feelings about it. But I'm just going to, rather than edit out anything, I'm just going to for the historical record, so we can see my journey from... I think the panic is a problem, but I don't want to downplay people's fear about it, because you can't just tell someone their feelings are wrong. Anyway, just wanted to put that in before the episode starts. Hello and welcome to Michael and Ivanka's Grand Podcast, a podcast where at least one of us thinks that this coronavirus panic is all a bit silly. But hey, that might just be me. Or do you? My name's Michael Forrest.
And I'm Ivanka Magic.
Or do you think it's a bit silly? Or
do I think it's a bit silly?
You're not in the centre. Well, you're not in London, so how is it in Croatia?
I'm not in an epicentre. I'm in Croatia. We have 27 recorded cases today, the 13th of March. I am one of these people that has been monitoring the virus for long enough for Michael to be going, what is this epidemic you keep talking about? So I've been keeping an eye.
Just a bit of flu, innit?
Well, I don't think it is.
Okay.
So that's one thing. I was like... I have also repeated that, it's just a bit of flu, and then I've read a few things from some Italian doctors going, it's not. However, the survival rate, it's a bit worse than flu. It's a problem, the number of people that need help with respiratory equipment is a problem, because, for example, I believe you just don't, no health service caters for that many people needing that much help.
Right.
So, however, people's panicky behaviour is probably a far bigger risk than the actual thing. Which is, I do this on podcast chat to you about this? Like when I did that Wellcome Trust project, one of their big topics is epidemics, and one of the things like they talk about is reducing panic and getting good information out there. And things like, don't do SMS alerts, do telling people while they're at work that something bad is happening, so that they keep their professional persona and less likely to go, run out and buy toilet paper.
Toilet paper everywhere. I don't know.
I don't know. I think I did... my daughter's nursery here, they had a nurse in to talk to them about how to wash their hands properly. I mean, wash your hands, I don't know. I'm not in like a flat, but like the impact on life might be quite significant for a while. More places shut down, more travel gets locked down.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, that's us. Luckily, we don't have to. Well, you're on an island away from everyone.
At the moment,
but
that relies on tourism.
I don't really see it. Well, Italy's going to suffer from that, isn't it?
Yeah.
Hey, what are we talking about this week, though? Anyway,
we're talking about being really patronising.
Oh, cool!
And like telling people not to,
and a bit and a bit of about being patronised as well. So I think the title is going to be patronising, as though. Yeah, like patronising as the verb patronise, or to be patronised. Patronising. Have you done any patronising recently?
Apparently I do it often.
How's it going?
This week I have been gifted with a brand new purpose-built and decorated compost box for my garden. I'm delighted with it. It has been painted by my daughter, assembled by my husband. It is magnificent. And so that's what I've been doing this week. I'm very happy.
Sounds good.
Romance is not dead.
Compost. You heard it here first.
How are you, Michael?
I'm good. I've been switched into marketing mode this week, so it was hard to make the switch. But I'm sort of writing blog posts and things. I'm sort of finding a tone. I'm reading this book, that book Uncanny Valley, still, which I'm still enjoying. I'm nearly finished, and it's I sort of quite like the tone of it for my own stuff. So, you know, how when you're reading something, you end up writing in that tone. I sort of think it works quite well. But yeah, so just trying to think about all that nonsense of search rankings and keyword optimization and how are you going to get your ranking up? All that kind of rubbish. And just looking at my sales a bit like overly, we're still going to, yeah. So yeah, I'm in that kind of state, just hoping that I can get enough people interested in the app that I don't have to go back to work.
Well, I purchased your app and I have been dutifully... Well, I've missed one day. I don't quite know how I missed a day, but I did. I liked the introduction text where it talks about privacy. I thought you did that well.
Thank you.
Because I think... Yeah, anyway. So I thought that was good. And I obviously don't have enough entries yet to have learnt anything insightful. And I'm trying to work, I'm still trying to work out what sort of messages I want to write. However, I'm when it asks me how I am, I'm trying to tell it. And then I'm like, yeah, but you should have asked me an hour ago. I was having a terrible time. I'm fine now. Because I have had a bit of one of those weeks where I was like struggling to find, in fact, for a couple of weeks I've been, doing that, dipping a bit low. And so I was like, well, now you ask me.
Well, it's okay. Like it's more. I think it's more a volume game. Like at the end of the day, so like if you just want to put that, I mean, that's why I put in the multiple. You can put. Well, this was making me unhappy, but mostly I'm okay now, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So
I wondered, with not really a properly UXy head on, just like, would I be interested in seeing an integration with my activity? For example.
Yeah, I do want to, that's on the list.
That's on the list.
Yeah.
I thought, because I do like an integration myself.
Yeah. It's like I got the sort of a couple of basic ones in, location and like tags and stuff, and then like an overall one. But yeah, but like I don't want to go back into development on new stuff until I've got like a decent number of users using it, so that I can, because some of these things are going to be
about bugs.
Well, find out about bugs, and there's one bug I just cannot figure out though. Like if you go into if you switch to the other screen and then you come back and then you unlock the private entries, it crashes, and like the reasons for that are just so unfathomable. Like I'm narrowing in, chipping away out every other day. Like what if I just isolated this? It's the way. It's because I've had to. Anyway, whatever. So
I don't really. I'm listening in a way that words are coming into my brain.
I'm going to snip this bit out of the podcast. So
no. Actually, I was thinking that it's good that you can reproduce it. I have not come across it.
Yeah, it's relatively esoteric, so I'm not like panicking about it, but I am like, I need to figure this out. But you always think, if maybe this? No.
Not that. At least you know what it isn't. So, Michael, are you patronising?
I don't know. How am I supposed to know?
Do people ever accuse you of being patronising?
Like once in a while, I'll get it from Sharon. You're being and once in a while, I'll feel patronised by, well, it's sort of like, what causes it? It's like, I'm telling you something you already know as if you didn't know it. Right?
Well, I think that's one, or telling you in a way that I am presenting myself as being superior to you because I know and you don't.
It sort of reveals an assumption you're making about your sort of relative knowledgeability and or status. It might not seem like much, but it's sort of it's a sort of window into a wider like anxiety of like not being taken seriously.
But I was thinking about it. It's like occasionally when I get accused of being patronising, I'm just telling you something that I know. The fact that you don't like me telling you something that I know, because I'd say I'm accused of being, or I feel like I'm concerned that I'm patronising people. I think I have been told over the years multiple times that I am patronising. And equally, I hate being patronised.
Yeah.
I will go for somebody if I feel like they're patronising me. Talk to me like that. What do you think I am? So I do not like to be patronised, which might be why I'm very conscious of patronising. Yeah. However, sometimes I just know stuff that I need to tell people. Or, yeah. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Yeah. And gender-wise...
Gender-wise.
I presume that like I get a lot less being patronised being a white Michael as I am. Whereas you've got to sort of contend with, that sort of assumption that women don't know nothing, do they?
No, they don't.
They're all fluffy.
Yeah, they don't know things. They don't know, like, that there's loads of stuff women things. Don't know. No, not grown-up things.
I'd be surprised to have a girl who knows what a diode is. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. So there's a bit of that.
But it probably surprises and upsets me more when I am patronised as a result, because I'm like, the cheek of it, the absolute barefaced cheek of it, to assume that I did not know that tyres go flat after a few months if you don't pump them up. You bike shop mofo.
It's your bike shop is your scarring.
It's the only one I can think of, to be honest. Like, I'm sort of, like, how deep is this subject? Like one of the more sort of visceral ones for me, I suppose, is when I was younger and like every day my father would insist on telling me that I'm wiping the table wrong or whatever. Like every day it was like you're just being sort of like micromanaged about how you're doing these things that like I feel like if you would just let me do it my way and just get the off my back, then I would feel a lot less angry and upset the whole time and like dreading this. Okay, we've all got to clear that. And when there's 7 kids and you're all supposed to be somehow doing table cleaning duties, it's like it's very hard for that to self-organize, and there's it's like what I don't know, and it was just that was a constant source of anxiety. You're putting in the dishwasher wrong, when someone sort of like tells you something that you already know, and part of you, especially when it's like, you have told me this 1,000 times, can you please stop telling me it every single day? I don't know if that falls under the banner of patronising, but it's certainly like a distrust thing that you just kind of like, you want to be given responsibility and ownership of a task rather than like just the assumption being that you aren't going to know how to do it.
I think there is there's a respect thing again, isn't there? Or like, sort of... so in a work context, I will sometimes not tell people something at the risk of being accused of being patronising. When actually, all it is me, I've done this before, let me tell you what happens when you do that. Let's not do that. And it's very, very hard to deliver that because people are defensive. We have this amusing... line in my household, which I have told people at work to give them the right to tell me that I'm patronising them, which is Nick tells the story of him sitting at home gluing something, and it was Perspex, and he had got wood glue with him. Have I told you this story?
No, I don't think so.
And I walked into the living room and I was like, the way he tells it, I went, wood glue?
Oh no, you have.
And so whenever I am being you get a wood particularly I don't know, patronising, I get a wood glue. So I tell this story often in a work context to give people the right to go, what glue? And then I go, is my voice doing that thing where I'm so incredulous that you don't know this, that my voice is going...
it's that, isn't it? It's that how could you not know this?
How could you?
I think that's what I get from Sharon. Like, I'll be surprised that she doesn't know something. I'll be like, how can you not know about Spider-Man's origin story? That's ridiculous. That's a sort of safe one, and not actually a true one. But do you know, we watched this, like one of the School of Life videos this week was like how to sort of avoid emotionally unintelligent people. What are the signs? 5 things that people who aren't that emotionally intelligent do. And one of them was this sort of thing of, I hadn't really thought about it like that. And I'm like, I seem to have a bit of an empty space where knowing whether I've been patronising should probably live. So I'm slightly worried that I'm being unknowingly...
What's wrong about saying I hadn't really thought about it that way?
I think it's just like a sign of a lack of sort of introspection and sort of like processing of one's childhood and things like that sort of like someone's not really kind of crossed that threshold into self.
I think I use that phrase as a sort of holding space for that. That's a really stupid thing. But let me pretend to consider it seriously. I hadn't really thought of it that way.
Is that what you mean when you say? Because I did when he said that. I was like, yeah, I can think a banker says that.
A banker says that.
But is that... so I guess you're just emotionally unintelligent. And
I guess I am.
Yeah, so sorry about that. Oops. Really, that started off as me trying to say, like, am I just patronising all the time? But I mean, I grew up so insecure. Like, the thing is, I think there's this dynamic of when you're insecure and you don't like yourself and you're not sure of yourself, then you assume that everyone else is smarter than you. You assume that other people are at least as intelligent or knowledgeable as you. And then it just means you get constantly disappointed by everyone around you. And I think it sort of leads to being really condescending to people, like really sort of because you're like, oh, you don't even know that because you don't understand that the thing you know is actually quite advanced. And I think a lot of people are stuck in that. It's like, well, this idiot didn't even know that, and I'm sort of like, no, but that's not that obvious.
No.
So it's sort of like like you have to have a little bit of self-worth. Like you have to value your own sort of like experience and intelligence before you can to help avoid like like just assuming that everyone else is better than you and then being disappointed and mean to them when they're not even as smart as you and I'm just an idiot. You know?
This whole "I'd not really thought about it that way" phrase has really thrown me. So I'm like, really? Am I so? What was the other thing? Is there other signs I need to worry about? How many do you have to score before you're emotional?
I don't think it was. I don't think it was quite in the same way. It's just that it's usually you say it when I've got like some sort of technical systematic way of thinking about something that you haven't.
But what else you expect if somebody does give you something that you hadn't?
You'll have to watch the video. I'll link to it in the notes.
Everybody. Yeah, so going back to that whole condescending, expecting too little or too much, or not understanding where you fit on the scale. I think that's quite... I mean, it's like the one of the ways on the podcast that I check myself the most, I think I'm being patronising, is when I start talking about people as children. And I'm like,
yeah.
But in this instance, I'm going to use my child who sort of, no, I can do it all by myself, or I want to do it, or I can do it. It's very important. Or yes, mummy, of course I know how to do it. Element of it. But it's like the stuff I need. Oh, that's what she asked me the other day. She's like, mummy, why do I have to do what you tell me to do?
She's seen through the matrix already.
And I was like, right, this is my best answer that I could give. It's like, because I've been on the planet for longer than you, there's a bunch of stuff that I know about that you haven't had a chance to learn yet. So things like keeping you safe and making you brush your teeth and not eat too much chocolate and all these kind of things. But once you learn lots of things, then you'll have to listen to me less, because you'll be able to make your own decisions that will be, safe and right and good decisions. Like it's my job to help you get the tools. But there's nothing wrong with being What's wrong with being clever and knowing stuff?
There's nothing wrong with being clever and knowing stuff. Can I just interject with, like, I suppose the other thing about why the child has to do what you say, I was just thinking about was because your brain structures aren't optimized for life as an adult yet. They're optimized, your
I'll
brain,
tell her that.
when you're like older, then your brain develops new structures. Did you?
And then she'll go, yes, but Mummy, what number do I have to be in order to do that? And I go,
18.
well, it depends. 35. Mummy, when can I have a mobile phone? When you're 30. Oh, no. Then she asked when she can have a child, she asked the other day.
Oh. Well.
And Nick goes, hang on a minute. And he goes, 20 might be a good number. She said, what's a grown-up number? And
Right.
Nick said, 20 is a grown-up number. And she went, so when can I have a baby? And then Nick goes, hang on a minute, Ivanka, don't talk. We're going to find out when we're going to become. So she counted up to 20. She went, that's a long time. She wasn't impressed with that. We've got... there's a lot of questions at the moment.
Hey, do you know what? I've been counting squats and things in Chinese at the gym.
Whoa.
So that's even more impressive than a child counting up in English. But to your worrying about being patronising by making these children analogies, I actually think that's quite a powerful way of thinking about other people, and actually is one of the Alain de Botton School of Life kind of core tenets is you've got to remember that everyone's just a sort of child in there, and like when they sort of react badly or sort of over the top, it's usually because they've sort of reverted to the sort of like like they're kind of reacting to something as though they were a child, and you have to treat them the way you would a child rather than trying to like kind of reason, or you've got to sort of be nurturing and kind and those things when someone's being sulking and all that kind of thing, rather than we sort of, I think we overestimate our maturity and rationality. I don't know if that's patronising, but it's certainly a technique for understanding other people, isn't it? I always say isn't it at the end to just try and make you agree with my point.
Isn't it? So a leading... Give me a leading question.
Yeah, so it's a way for me to feel like,
Ivanka?
I'm right. I'm right about that, aren't I?
Yes, Michael, you are correct. But I think that, but then absolutely, when I react to being patronised, I'm 100% being the child going, don't you talk to me like that. You can't talk to me. Don't tell me what to do. I don't want to be told what to do. I think because I don't like being patronised so much, I think that's part of what makes me paranoid about being patronising, to be honest. I'm like... People are delicate flowers.
Right. Paul Hollywood.
Right, Paul Hollywood.
That thing he does.
Oh, yeah. What does he do?
He goes, next time, just make sure you bake it for long enough. It's a fucking time limit. Obviously, I was trying to bake it for long enough. He always like throws in these little patronising little things that you can't... Obviously, no one can do anything. Like, yeah, I know. I hate Paul Hollywood.
Do you?
Yeah. But it's so funny because they hate him as well. So I wonder if he's okay. I hope he's okay. Sometimes I'm like, I hope you're okay. And like, I think the sort of the persona can just end up, you sort of adapt to how people see you, and like, but he's like a paradigm of. Oh my God. Why are you being so patronising? That's such a useless thing to say and so condescending. Can you not?
But I think this is what's interesting about it. Right? There is this kind of... I think him and as his persona, I haven't watched Bake Off for a little while, but he has, he's right. He's the expert and he knows. So whatever he says to you, patronising or not, is... correct and tested, and he knows that if you'd baked it for longer it would have had less of a soggy bottom, or whatever the phrases are that we all chuckle about with Bake Off. It's raw inside. So, and in that context, he could go for being a more likeable character and not such a there's always this way off of how much are people going to like you and how right do you need to be?
Well, yes, there is, but I also feel like that your insights need to be on some level actionable. It's like when the trainer comes to me after I've just done like 15 squats and goes, "Oh no, can you keep your back straight?" I'm like, I've just finished now, so what's the bloody point of telling me that? Like, can you do your job and come in on the time? And all Paul Hollywood does is like lurks nearby and sort of smirking and like, what is wrong with you? Or goes, really, you're going to do like that?
Yeah. That waiting for people, that taking delight in people's failure. That's what's not nice about him. Oh, is that what you're going to do?
But I don't like that. The hierarchy, but there's this sort of like earned expertise thing, but then there's the workplace sort of like fake version of like hierarchy where someone's
you're
like,
in charge.
If you do someone like, that's where you really get patronised the shit out of. And I think one manager person who was just he just clearly wasn't emotionally equipped to be in charge, but he'd risen up pretty high, like, and just the way he spoke just like was just so condescending, but also just like, it's just like, well, if we're going to do this, and if you fail, we'll do. And I'm like, why are you like introducing shit like this, like straight off the bat? Like that's like, this is I need to hear that I've got your like support, and like that I can come to you if I sort of like need to figure something out and those kinds of things. But it's like, so when someone's just like high on their own like managerial, I'm a vice something or something. So, and you sort of know that you've seen their work, and you're like, oh my God, like, so I don't. So that's what I just cannot stand, is being patronised by someone whose only qualification is that they happen to have got promoted to some position for whatever reason.
But so there's something like, if let's say you're a smoker and you've gone to the doctor and the doctor's told you to stop smoking, are they patronising you? Because they are telling you something. Because they also have to tell you. Like they have a, like if your child's running in the road, you have to tell them whether they like it or not. You have to tell them that running in the road is dangerous and they shouldn't do it, and grab them and... tie them down. But, like there is... Like,
the advice on that is like, well, I want to circle back to the doctor thing, because that people don't smoke for the reasons that they shouldn't smoke. There's some reason that they are smoking, and the same reason there's a child who's been told not to run in the road is what you sort of need to find out why they're running in the road, even though you've told them not to run in the road, and like address that and like try and deprogram that. Because if you just keep saying the same thing, then like we all know all these things that we're not supposed to do, but then we have a more compelling reason to do it. We've convinced ourselves of some more compelling reason. So that's the key to quitting smoking, is going, okay, well, why are you smoking? Oh, well, it's because it relieves stress. It's like, well, and then you kind of get into that and go, well, no, actually it creates the stress that it's relieving. So if you just took it out of the equation, then you'd have exactly the same amount of stress and probably less overall, because you wouldn't be trying to run out of rooms to go and have a cigarette. There's things like, so it's like, why are you running in the road? I just always think of a friend of mine who told me about when she was young, they used to play this game, which was how many times could they run across the road backwards and forwards before, like, as a car was coming. And of course, like, inevitably she got hit by a car playing this game. And it's like, well, what is making you play that game? It's, I guess you want the status of being the one that did it the most, and that for some reason is more important to you than like being a scaredy cat safety person. But to circle back to the doctor thing, I went to the doctor about something that, like, and the reason I went, I didn't wait for something to become agonizingly painful. I was like, okay, well, there's a mild thing, but it might be like a symptom of some future bigger problem, so I'm just going to go. And he seemed like such a hack, the questions he was asking. Like, there was no subtlety, it was just like the stuff that we all learn, like, seemed to just, it was all that stuff, and I was trying to get something a bit more sophisticated than that, and I just felt really disappointed by my doctoring. And I sort of want Stephen Fry's doctor that sort of helped him realise he had cancer very early. But yeah, like the authority, it was just, I don't know. Like, if I go to someone, like, I don't want the fucking stuff I could find on Google. I want your experience. I want your years of experience. I don't want you to assume that I am not aware of all this, the normal stuff. I want you to assume that maybe I want something a little bit more nuanced than that. That's why I'm coming to a person. Why would I come to a person otherwise? Like,
but that's the okay. The example I was trying to pull out an example of the fact that, like, sometimes the person who knows something is morally obliged to tell the person who doesn't appear to know it. So maybe my example of smoking was a bad one, but I was just trying to think of, like, what's a respected. It's like the patronising has this massive negative label.
Yeah.
But, like, sometimes a statement needs to be made that is like otherwise you end up with, you can't pander always to the audience. Sometimes you have to go, things are a bit fucked, this is what we need to do.
It's like, it's like usually it's coming out of disappointment, isn't it? Maybe.
Yeah.
It's coming out of, oh God, I have to explain this to you, and then, but I mean sometimes that's when you're conscious that you might be doing it, and you just have to say, well, I'm just going to have to do it because I've waited 4 weeks for you to come through with something. I'm still not seeing anything, so I'm going to start telling you how to suck eggs because I'm trying to shake you out of this. You
clearly don't know how to. Then there's the sort of the flip side of it, the bit. So okay, I've tried to be as self-reflecting as possible on the types of patronising I am, but then the being patronised, it's like, on what basis are you assuming that I don't know this or that I need to be told?
Right.
Why
are you patronising me?
Why are you patronising me? What is it about me that's allowing you to do this or giving you permission to do this? Is it, a snap decision that you've made based on what I look like or what gender I am, or is it because we've had a conversation and you've established that I don't know something? In which case you're probably not patronising me, you're probably telling me something I don't know.
So do we think like patronising is always like because they've misjudged you and they've made an assumption about you? So I know it's like you sort of jump to, I guess I'm just thinking about like the bike shop person. It's like, you're saying this to me because you think I'm a soft-handed wimp boy that's never ridden it. Like, this is all new to me, and I've never changed a tyre on a bike. It's like, and that, well, I've been changing tyres on bikes since I was bloody 12. So why are you patronising me like that? And it's always a sort of an incorrect conclusion based on prejudice or based on sort of like superficial judgments. I think that's when it hurts.
Yeah. When it's just based on, like, I mean, there are things that, so there's a couple of sides of it. If you're thinking about things as the patronisee and the patroniser, like, as a patronisee, the reason you get upset really doesn't matter whether it's unjustified or justified. The being in part. So somebody's telling you something that they think you don't know. Whether they are telling you because they've made some snap decision based on nothing, you are almost always as upset or have the same reaction or could have the same reaction whether you're being told because you genuinely don't know, and there's that sort of discomfort. I'm at work, somebody's discovered that I don't know a thing, or they're telling me something that maybe I should know, and it's fed into your imposter syndrome or whatever else is going on. And it's so there's like, whereas if you think about your bike man, generally none of us like to be discovered in not knowing something, do we? But your bike man, like, this is his expertise, this is his opportunity to tell you something. I'm gifting
Sharon's,
you this
information.
It's like, here you go, did you know this really great thing?
Something I have. Please give me social capital.
I know something and I want to gift it to you.
That's true.
And I think that sort of, if we could think of being patronised as a gift. Maybe it's sometimes an unwelcome gift. But still, thank you so much for taking the time to explain to me how cars work. I really appreciate it. You might be surprised to know that I already know that, but something for next time.
Probably the answer. I think this is. Do you know how much do you think this is a sort of barrier to sort of diversity and people moving between groups? Where if someone's obviously an outsider and you've sort of been brought into a group and then someone's like. There's people talking and you're sort of like saying to the person, yeah, and that means that he doesn't like that person. Oh yeah, and that means that means drugs. Oh, and the other person at a certain point is like, yeah, I know. And it becomes sort of like you're going to associate going into that sort of like place where you're a minority with being constantly patronised, or just like assume that you don't know anything, and actually you might be really you probably know a lot more than people expect.
I think that is interesting because, like, if you take knowledge just not to be about, like, what books you've read and how much maths you know how to do, but things like cultural references and, I don't know, like, even language. Like, when you're translating for people, sometimes, because I spend a lot of time translating, it's like... sometimes you translate stuff that's too basic. People go... Yeah, even I got that. I'm sorry, but I'm in translation mode now, and so I'm translating. I don't know what you don't know, and then you sort of like ease off, and then they go, yeah, and what's going on? I've got a lot catching up. So there's that sort of. I think it might, there's that sort of the discomfort that this sort of unwelcome gift element of it is probably a barrier because it's so attached to our ego to admit that we didn't know something. And sometimes, like, there's even this bluffing and bravado of I know that, when actually clearly they don't, or you're the blagging, or
just just continue and I'll
keep
see,
telling me
like,
things.
'cause I don't know
I don't know if I don't know this or I do know,
or I'm going to get it from context if, as you say, the next thing. So the people that like halt the conversation until you confirm whether or not you know, it's like, don't do that. It's really annoying.
I'm sure I told you this. I'm sure I said it on podcast. A recent project that I was working on, and we were doing the stand up in the morning.
Yeah.
And the guy was going around, so none of the other participants had been part of an agile project before. So we're having our morning stand up, the short meeting, and the guy, the sort of project manager dude, was going around sort of explaining things, and he said, then he turned to me, who was I am his colleague, and he went, Ivanka, what did I just say?
Oh,
why don't you off right now? Oh dear!
Like, what's an acceptable reaction to that in the workplace? Can you go, let's have a word outside, please?
Well,
or is it like, because it seems like you're not supposed to get upset about feeling patronised, but like when you realise that it is just a fundamental kind of someone else's theory of your mind, someone else's level of respect for you, when you realise it's so low that you're like, look, this is going to affect our relationship unless we like hash this out. Like, is that something? Would you think? Would that be? What did you do?
I took him to. I didn't. He and I were off from the same agency, and everyone else was the client.
Yeah. Right.
And already the client was deferring to him, where in this context I was the more experienced.
Right.
So after the meeting, I took him to one side and said, I am prepared for the client to assume that you as the white man know more than me. I am not prepared for you as my colleague to be, I'm not ready to defend myself. You have been introduced to me. You know my background. I come highly recommended. I don't care. You have to assume I know what I'm doing. And if you don't, then just off. It's like, because in this context, I'd literally been given to him as somebody who had experience of this type of project, and he didn't.
Yeah.
So it's like, don't you ever undermine me in front of a client ever again, me or any other woman. I said, so I did lay into him, but I did it, in four eyes, as they say in Croatia. So I sort of made sure we weren't overheard.
Yeah.
It was a private conversation. But in front of the client, I can't even remember what I did. I just sort of laughed it off. I'm quite used to, as well, people assuming I don't know until they discover that I do. And then that's, unfortunately, that's part of my life.
I would not be able to handle that. I would be like, I hope I could like keep a straight face long enough, but like, wow, if someone pulled that on me, I'd be like, all right, guys, see ya.
I was like, yeah. Anyway, I was quite proud of myself the way I took him off to one side. I was like, I can't, because he did one other thing that I can't even remember. That was the key, and I was like, I didn't mean it like that.
Yeah, no one
I
ever
don't
does.
care. But yeah, so there you go. That's my little being patronised story.
All right, we're at 42.5 minutes.
That'll do us.
We could do a little short episode. Look, I'm going on holiday. I'm taking a week off now, so I think we can do a light one. Is that LITE? Why not? Michael and Ivanka's light podcast.
Yeah. Maybe we should do a spin-off, 5-minute chats.
It's a 5-minute chats about I don't even know what. We've got this rose smelling. I found it took me 5 shops to find toilet paper this week. 5 or 6 supermarkets. I found there was one in M&S, and it's like rose scented toilet paper, 4 packs. That's what we talk about on Michael and Ivanka's Light podcast. All right.
I don't like scented toilet paper.
Well, no one does. That's why it's the last one left in the toilet paper buying panic. I was like, is it weird? Also, it's like, because it's got these pink roses on it, it's sort of like you see one floating in the toilet, you're like, oh no, something bad has happened. Oh no, it's just the toilet. I saw, like Amazon's search results for toilet paper. The first result is Donald Trump's face on toilet paper. So that's, anyway, that's enough toilet
something
paper.
Something to amuse us all.
Thanks for listening. If you like the podcast, go to grandpodcast.com where there's a subscribe button, library, go and click on Amazon link, so on, thing like that.
Have you had a stroke, Michael?
I'm having a stroke. I just, you got a phone, you listen to podcasts, you know what to do. Like, why am I patronising you with these instructions? On topic. How else can we patronise our listeners? You can find me at michaelforestmusic.com or goodtohear.co.uk. Buy my app. Where can people find you, Ivanka?
People can find me at Ivanka on Twitter.
Cool.
That's it, really. I've got nothing to sell. Buy Michael's app.
You can get a Good Habits one. You can get one for happiness and changes and tracking and all that. You can get one for tracking your calories. It doesn't have a database of foods, but you should just know how much stuff. There's one with radio. There's another one with music. It's all going to be apps. Goodtohear.co.uk. Just go on there. I don't want to go back to contracting. Also, you can click on Amazon links and you can Patreon us too. That was desperate.
Buy Michael's app. Do. It's very handsome.
Thank you. Glad you think so. I'm going to reduce the time limit to make a change to 30 days from 90 days. I think 90 was a bit intense. I think a change a month.
I've got a long way to go.
Okay.
All right, then.
All right. See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye. Bye.